Hello, my name is Steve Gearhart, and this is the Unagi Observer. Originally, I was going to have some footage of Metro and talk about it some, but I didn't get to go down to DC this weekend. So I am going to go ahead and talk about getting to Washington, DC, and why having a car is of no benefit to you once you get inside of Washington, DC. But first, a quick word about a fake hotel housing site called Otakon2017.org. If you have used Otakon2017.org to get hotel rooms or other similar arrangements, please go to the official Otakon website, as Otakon2017.org is a pirate site set up by a third party. If you have any concerns, please go directly to the official Otakon website for more details and contact information. The link is down below. Speaking of Otakon, also check out their portion of their site called All Roads Lead to Otakon. They have done a great job in collecting information, and you should bookmark it on your browser. Again, the link is down below. Alright, having gotten that out of the way, on to getting to DC and why you should just leave your car in the garage once you get to DC. Okay, so there are a variety of ways to get into DC. Some are certainly more easier than others, but before I get into them, let me just take a moment and talk a bit about those who are arriving by the airports, by airplane. If you're flying into DC, check with your hotel right now if they offer a shuttle service. Most hotels in the city will not, but those closer to the airports will. If your hotel happens to offer a shuttle service, see if you can make a reservation. Even if you can't make a reservation, and you might have to wait a bit for a shuttle, believe me, it's worth it. Odds are you're going to have to use public transportation. Each airport has access to trains, metro, buses, or a combination thereof. Check the website of the airport you are landing at to see what is available to you. You can, of course, rent a car. Renting a car has appeal if you are flying into Dulles International or BWI airports, as they are 25 to 30 miles away from Washington, D.C. itself. As I have said before and will continue to say, if you have to use a car to get to DC, fine, just leave it in the parking garage for the duration of your stay. For anyone coming to Washington, D.C., no matter how you're arriving there, there is one very, very, very important thing you should know. Washington, D.C. is divided up into quadrants: northeast, northwest, southwest, and southeast. For those of us familiar with DC already, we know this. For those of you who aren't used to getting around DC that much or are coming for the first time, that is a very important thing to know. As you navigate DC, you will see on the address of things an abbreviation right after the street address. It will always be NE, NW, SW, and SE. Those are the quadrant designations. NE is for northeast, NW is for northwest, SE is for southeast, and SW is for southwest. For example, the address of the Walter E. Washington Convention Center is 801 Mount Vernon Place, NW. That means that you should be on the Mount Vernon Place that is located in the northwest quadrant. You see, in DC, the streets don't always connect when they are in different quadrants. If your hotel is on 11th Street Northwest, you will never get there if you take 11th Street Northeast, because they are two completely different streets in two totally different locations. Therefore, they do not connect. That is why you need to pay attention to that quadrant designation. So make sure you know exactly where you are going before you come to DC. If you are arriving by train, then you are either coming by MARC train if you live locally in Maryland, or by the VRE if you live locally in Virginia. All lines will go to Union Station, which is where you want to end up. Links are down below. For the MARC train, you need to use the Penn line, as it operates 7 days a week. You should get your tickets when you arrive to the station, as it will jump up in price as you get on the train. The Camden line will also work, but only runs during the weekday, not the weekend. For the VRE train, you must get your tickets at the station. You will not be allowed on the train without them, so you have to buy them at the station, because you won't be able to buy them on a train. Fares are determined by how far away you are coming from, so check the website to see how much you will be spending. Also, VRE only runs during the week and not during the weekend. So if you want to get back home, you're going to need to get a ticket from the Amtrak train. Amtrak runs all week, all year. However, the prices can be more than what you pay on the MARC train or on the VRE. So check the Amtrak website to see what the prices are going to be. Like the MARC line, you can purchase on the train, but you will pay more. So get your tickets at the station. It's cheaper and quite frankly easier. Amtrak is your best bet if you're coming from farther away than Maryland or Northern Virginia. Once you arrive at Union Station, you have a variety of choices to get to either the convention center or to your hotel. You can use Metro, taxi, Lyft, Uber, or the DC Circulator. Note, I did not say walk. It's going to be hot, humid, and you will die before you make the 1 mile walk to the convention center or to whatever hotel you may be staying at. I will be giving Metro its own episode, as it will most likely be your most used mode of transportation once you are inside of Washington, D.C. I aim to have that up next week. In the meantime, let's start with the D.C. Circulator. Much like the Baltimore Circulator, it is a cheap and easy way to get around. You can pick it up from the Union Station and pay $1 to ride, just $1. The line at Union Station is called the Yellow Line. It's also known as the Georgetown Union Station line. It runs normally 7 a.m. to 9 p.m. every day, but check the website to see if they have extended hours into the evening. It's going to take you along K Street, just south of the convention center. Check the website for routes closer to your hotel and for the various stops you might need. Taxis will be real easy to get. They are lined up right outside of Penn Station. Just go to the one at the very front and off you go. Now, taxi fares start at $3 as soon as you get into the cab. It's about $2.16 per mile, and you're going to have to pay 50 cents per piece of luggage that you have with you. Now, if you should happen to get caught in traffic and it takes an hour to get to your destination, no reason why that should happen, but that does happen from time to time, it's going to be $25 per hour. Don't let that scare you. Taxis really are a good way to get around town, and odds are your hotel will be close enough that you're not going to have to worry about it. And of course, there are always Lyft and Uber. Just as in any other place in the world, their rates go up and down with peak times. DC is a fairly active town, so getting an Uber or Lyft shouldn't be that difficult to get at Union Station. Plus, Uber and Lyft, as well as taxis, most likely will be your best bet if you're staying at the convention past midnight, as everything else is going to shut down. Now, before I talk about driving into and around DC, let me give any of you who plan to show up at Penn Station by either the Bolt bus or Greyhound, let me just say to you, let me give you a shout out. Your commitment to showing up to Otakon is commendable. Taking the bus is never easy. Okay, now on to why cars are useless inside of Washington, D.C. Before I go on, if you live in the DC metropolitan area and have been driving in and out of DC for a few years, you can skip this segment, as you already know the horror that is the DC commute. However, if you don't drive in DC that much or at all, this is your first time, or you are a beginning driver and this is your first time driving in DC, then this segment is definitely for you. Simply put, there is no easy way to get into DC when driving. Getting to the DC Beltway will be the easy part. Getting from the Beltway into Washington, D.C. will be the hard part. There will always be construction. There will always be breakdowns. There will always be accidents. There will always be traffic unless you're driving around from 11 p.m. to 5:30 a.m. The Beltway, also known as 495, I-270, and I-95, are always congested. Secondary roads are worse. It'll take you just as long if you decide to hop off onto an earlier exit. There are no shortcuts into Washington, D.C. There are no tricks, there are no hidden roads, there are no wormholes. Getting into Washington, D.C. just simply sucks. You will need to be hyper aware of the drivers around you, because they are not going to be aware of you. Drivers in this little part of the world are amongst the worst drivers in the world. Remember to drive defensively. Just take it easy, take it slow, even if you are getting honked at, especially if you're getting honked at, trust me. The guy who's honking at you within seconds, after drinking his Starbucks, using an electric shaver while texting, he will have forgotten all about you once he gets around you. And yes, he will be doing all of those things as he is driving. So here's a little hint about driving in Maryland. If you're driving in Maryland to get to DC, here's the hint. If you hit someone from behind, you're automatically at fault. That's the law. You've been warned. Here's another little hint. Pay attention to any parkways you may be on, particularly the signs. The signs will denote if it is a federal road or just a regular state highway. If it is a federal road or a highway, federal highway, any speeding or traffic tickets you get on these special roads will result in tickets with fines in the hundreds of dollars, and you will have to show up in federal court, no matter what. One such parkway in Virginia is called the GW Parkway. That is a federal parkway. Again, you have been warned. Once inside Washington, D.C., always remember that the city is divided into those quadrants. So be sure that you already know where to go and make sure you have a map handy. Traffic inside of Washington, D.C. will not be fun. You will not move very fast in any direction or street, especially during the day. During the night, it gets a little bit better. Now again, make sure you are familiar with where you are going and have the map ready to be used. You'll be driving around circles, squares, and triangles. Yes, there are triangles in DC. It isn't hard to get lost in DC, which is why I will say again, have a map within your reach. Okay, I'm going to warn you right now, give yourself extra time to get to your hotel. Between getting into the city and just driving around in it is a chore, and it takes time. So make sure you have extra time. You will never be on time for anything because it is so difficult to drive around. That's why you need that extra time. So while a lot of you will be driving in and you can't help that, once you get to your hotel, park your car in the garage and leave it there for the rest of your time in DC. Most of the hotels in Washington will have a garage or a parking lot for you to use, so use it. Parking in the city is just as bad as trying to drive around in it. Parking signs are difficult to understand at certain points in the city, and they may even contradict themselves. I'm not even joking. And this is assuming that you can even get a parking space. Also be aware that if you even do find on-street parking, on the off chance, the rare chance that the presidential motorcade uses that street and that street is narrow enough, your car will be towed, and it will be up to you to find out which impound lot in the city has your car. And then of course with on-street parking, there's always the whole thing about your car getting hit by other cars, broken into, vandalized, etc. So for those of you who are going to be driving into Washington, D.C. to your hotels or wherever you're going to be staying, this is why I tell you to leave your cars in the garage or in the parking lot. There is no benefit to having them to get you from that location to the convention center. There's absolutely no benefit to it at all. If anything, it could be a liability to you if you try to use your car instead of just parking it in a paid lot or garage and use Metro or a taxi. Alright, that was how to get to DC and get around in it. I will go over Metro in more detail in the next episode. Remember to check out all the links down below to help you plan for your trip as you get there. My name is Steve Gerhardt, this is the Unagi Observer, and as always, thank you for watching, and I'll see you guys next week.